Is it necessary to wear all the hats in this creative landscape, or should you be mastering one skill? We say that. Do it all. Do it all. Welcome back to another episode of The Life We Create. I am Cobain Rivers.
And I'm Taylor Joy Stevens.
And this week we're talking about multi-hyphenates. It's on the rise. It's coming.
It's been on the rise.
We out here doing it.
Yeah.
Doing it all.
Mm-hmm. Maybe too much. Maybe too little.
What's a multi-hyphenate, Taylor? Let the people know.
Basically, a multi-hyphenate is someone who has multiple passions or skills. And you see that a lot in entertainment, especially actor, writer, producer. Someone's all three of those things, not like split up.
Yep. Yeah. You see it in many different industries. And honestly, I think, the creative field is seeing it pretty often, no matter what level you're at. You're seeing that being the expectation more than it is being the exception. I think in the past you had people that were, you'd have somebody and they'd be like, oh, I do all these things. And then you're like, all right, calm down. Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But now
author, speaker, something.
Yeah, I think they got the point.
I'm just giving some other, people that maybe aren't in film per se.
Yeah, in the past, you had that one person that kind of was a jack of all trades, and they kind of were the oddball in the sense because everybody else was focusing on one thing. But I'd say nowadays it's more common that most people in the space are a jack of all trades. You're doing multiple things. So many editors are editors as well as VFX artists as well as sound designers. It's kind of happening in every field. The author, speaker, where you said earlier, you're not just a writer, but now you're a public speaker. There's so many different expectations than there were 2 decades ago for people.
Yeah. Talking about expectation, it does seem these days that it's necessary, not only in jobs you do for other people, but if you're bootstrapping your own thing, especially you are going to wear multiple hats. I think of it also through someone that has ADHD, like what?
No, I was
give me a weird look.
Just listening.
Looking as someone with ADHD, like my brain can't even fathom having one thing. Like the way that my brain processes is having these multiple different interests and passions that keep me interested and intrigued in life.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, and I guess I never really thought about my ADHD being the reason why I may be this way. I've my entire life kind of been a person that tries to do a little bit of everything. When I was in sports, I played multiple sports. I didn't just play football.
Me too.
I played football. I tried basketball. I tried baseball. I did karate, wrestling. I did all this stuff, and sometimes you
did all that at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. And that was just because I had different interests. When I got into theater, and it started acting, I also started script writing, and then I also started directing. I started doing all these other things because in anything I've ever tried, I learn about other things in the field, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I'll try that out. Maybe I'll try that out. And so there's always this desire to learn other roles within the field of the role that I started in. Yeah.
And the advice to focus on one thing, especially I'm just saying from a performer's perspective or being in entertainment. Early on, I got that advice, focus on one thing. And that always did me a disservice because I'd be like, oh, why is it this thing is falling away and it means so much to me. I focused when I first got out here, I focused so hard on dance. But at the same time was in acting as well, but I let like piano fall on the wayside, and piano is something that I had in my life for so long, but because I felt I had to be hyper focused on like one avenue, like it kind of stripped away like depth and enjoyment in other areas of my life.
There was a point from a previous generation where the thought process was you had to be a master at one thing and you had to dedicate every moment of time you had to that one thing.
You have to put in all these hours of work
because that's how you're going to become the best at that. And while I do think that is, there's a lot of truth to that. If you want to be the best at something and you want to be known for that and better than anybody else at it, it does require all of your time and attention. Practice is important if that's your goal. If you want to be the best swimmer, the best musician, the best anything, to be the best, you got to work the hardest at it and you got to work over and over and over again. But I think there's a difference between wanting to be the best at something and wanting to have success at something and wanting to achieve things. Like you don't have to be the best at these things to be successful. Like, and you are allowed to experience life. And also I think sometimes it's tough to sit here and look at a child, somebody that's 16, 17, 18, 19 years old and say, hey, you need to pick right now what you're going to be the best at for the rest of your life. And so when you got to like college, like for me, trying to figure out the one thing I want to try and figure out and do was difficult. And so I was like 9 different majors in college because I tried something and say, I don't know if I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I try something else. I don't want to do this. And I kept doing that, kept jumping around. And really what I was doing was just amassing skill sets, learning little things from here and there and really figuring out, what do I have to offer the world? And what's the world have to offer me? And so being multifaceted and multi-hyphenated kind of came out of just exploring and wanting to explore and not wanting to feel trapped in one thing.
Yeah. Being curious.
Ooh, yes.
2 things. One, I wanted to circle back really quick to like being the best. Because like I truly feel like the best are incorporating other parts of themselves into their work, other interests of theirs that inform their work, that makes it interesting.
Give an example of that.
Like I don't know, I just feel like someone who's a painter, let's say, an artist. I don't know why I said painter. An artist, maybe they horseback ride and they paint beautiful pictures of horses. I see what you're saying, and stuff like whatever else interests you in your life.
You use
that makes it more dimensional in your craft.
Now, I do think though, just to touch on that, I do think that's a little different because that is focusing on interests, not so much just skills. Because yes, I like horseback riding, but maybe I'm using that in my painting. But I'd say it's kind of different for somebody that say your goal is to be the best lawyer, and so you're going to spend a lot of time studying, a lot of time, in court cases, doing all this, studying the best court cases. You're spending a lot of time engulfing that stuff. You may not have the time to.
But I think what makes an even better lawyer, let's say, use that example, would be a lawyer that also learns and educates himself on psychology.
Oh, yeah.
And they use that in their, litigations and stuff like that.
So you're right. I think you're right then. Use the other interests to help improve your main interest. Yeah, I like it. You had a second thing that you were going to say.
Yeah, I did. I did have a second thing. I'm trying to recall it. The whole school thing is just, we could have a whole episode on that, is just BS because I was like exploratory going in, but I didn't get to explore anything. Because in order to like explore major, you had to declare it, but like I couldn't learn anything about it first. Like it was just BS.
Yeah. And so that takes us to the question, which we touched on in the little intro, but the question we would ask today is it necessary to wear multiple hats in today's creative landscape, or Should you be mastering one skill?
Yeah, my stance is it's not only necessary, it's just natural, especially when you're talking about creatives. It's natural to have multiple passions and interests because that's what keeps us like hungry.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, and I say no to the one thing. I object.
It keeps us
Been there,
hungry.
done that.
Yeah. I think I also, while I like the it's natural and it keeps you hungry, I do think that's a thing. I also think that it's impossible not to be in the modern day because it is the expectation. I made the comment earlier about even when you're an editor, you're expected to do these different things. If you're right now, if you're any sort of creative trying to get a job for a company, and not even if you're creative, really, if you're any job person looking for a job, there is this professional. Thank you. There is this concept of looking for a rock star that you'll constantly see, and the idea of the rock star from the company is a person that does anything that we tell you to do. It doesn't even matter what your role is, and so. What I see a lot in a lot of creative positions, especially editor jobs, I'll see looking or editor or any sort of creative visual positions. I see looking for videographer, and I'm like, okay, cool. What do they want me to do? I look. They want me to edit. They want me to do sound. They want me to direct. They want me to also take my camera out and be the camera person. They also want me to produce the project and then deliver it at the end. So you actually are looking for a one-man production team, but you want to pay me $19, $20, $30 an hour.
Yeah.
That is insane and so that is the expectation that companies are having these days, that they expect you to wear all the hats. What I'm not going to do is break my back for $20 an hour.
Yeah. It's not cool and not rock star to get underpaid for your talents.
It's not. And you got to understand your worth, your value. If you are doing the majority of the work, what that means is that your skill set is valuable enough because they need all of it. If you're on the project and most of this work is coming from you and you're getting out there and then you're like, well, I got to put my name on it. Well, that's cool, but
kind of. Sometimes you don't even get to.
Sometimes you don't get to. Yeah, there's many projects that I've done that nobody has any clue that I had anything to do with that. But the people that hired you are eating. They're eating good, and they gave you $20, $200, $1,000. That sounds like a lot. If you heard, if you heard, I got $1,000 for that gig, that he's getting paid. That's crazy, because $1,000 is not a lot, not in 2024, not for something that you're spending 40 hours a week doing. Like, that's not a lot of money, and if someone is making their bread off of your back, you deserve to be living good.
Yeah, not taken advantage of. Don't get taken advantage of. And that's what we are here to proclaim from the mountaintops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little tangent. We went off there. But we really care about people really making passionate. A living from the stuff that they do and the creativity that they exude, and it's valuable. And the world seems to undervalue it, even though they don't, because you see how much creativity runs everything that's happening that we see.
Yeah, you definitely see all the possibilities of creativity now.
But getting back on topic. I think it's kind of, I don't think you have a choice but to be multi-hyphenate in this day and age. And what I think, though, has really contributed to that is the development of technology.
The accessibility.
Everything's accessible. And so it's easier to dabble in a lot of little things because you have like two items that you need to make all these things happen. I think about, like, for me, when I got into marketing and when I really got into editing, a big part of that was because of I was pursuing music. And so as an artist, I'm making my music all day, but I got to market myself. So I had to learn social media tactics. I had to learn all these different marketing strategies. In that process, I developed this knowledge around doing this, and I started to enjoy it and found new parts of it that I liked. And then in editing, it really became from like, I've got to create content for myself. How do I make this content? I could pay somebody to do this. Fantastic. Yes. But when you're like, 15 through 20 something years old, like, where are you getting money to pay somebody to do stuff? You're not. And so you just pick up something and you do it. You pick up a computer, you pick up a phone, and you shoot something, and then you download a program and you start editing it. And then you do that for years. And all of a sudden you're a fucking good editor. And so that's a skill that you developed out of a necessity. But now you've got this extra skill set. And so much of my multi-hyphenate came less from even just interest as much as it came from I needed things to get done and had nobody else to do them. And so it was time or money, and I had the time to put to it. So here we are. So I think it's kind of it's a necessity in this world for sure, in my opinion, because it's so accessible. It's so easy.
Yeah, 100%.
So easy. Look at how many YouTubers you see that that start out. They're editing their own videos. They're writing the scripts for their own videos. They're filming their own videos. They're literally doing everything, and then having to market their own videos, and then start all over and try and do it again while networking with people, while doing all these things that have been, things that from even when we were kids, this is what previous generations were doing for business. And that's what they're telling you need to do. And here we have it now. We're still doing it just in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
While I do love my multi-hyphen itself, it can be stressful though. Like, and I think you got to know yourself and what you're capable of. Because one of the tough things I'd say with being somewhat of a perfectionist, it sometimes gets overwhelming when you try to take on too many hats, because you don't have the time and energy to apply the same level of work ethic to every role. Going back to the music thing, like, I love making music so much and I love spending time on it. And by the time I get to the marketing part of my own music, I'm exhausted. And so a lot of times it's harder for me to market my own stuff, but it's really easy for me to market somebody else's stuff. And that's really because my energy on my stuff is really put in a different place. And I think you have to learn how to get past that depending on what you want. Like, so for me, I've learned that as much as I do love marketing for my music stuff, I do have to work with other people in that aspect, because I just don't have the energy in the same way that I do when I'm just marketing for somebody else. But that's knowing yourself.
Yeah. I think it's always when, because that's a whole topic too. Because it's that, but also like sometimes you're even too close to your own stuff, but you can do it all day for everyone else's, but you come up against stuff in your own work.
Yeah, I could see that.
And you're kind of not seeing everything like you would examine someone else's. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say for me, it's more of like just the balancing act of it all, because it's like I want to do it all and I want to do it all now. And that was a lesson that was learned over like quite a bit of time, where it's like, no, I need to prioritize. I'm not superhuman, and I can't juggle every single thing at once. Like, even there was at one point where I was taking like multiple acting classes at a time, and like I do not recommend that. Like, like that's too, you're being inundated.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just more of learning the balancing act for me, like you said, knowing yourself and knowing like your processing, your creative process, how you work best, what's most important to you
Hmm.
right now. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from um, a career coach was just let the pendulum swing
Mm.
like where it is right now, and it's always gonna like swing back. So like you don't have to do it all at once. Like it can be you can focus on this for now, and then when it swings, you can do the other thing you really want to do.
Yeah.
Shout out Jody Bentley.
I'd say the other thing that stood out to me in what you were saying there is you also have to build a strategy. If you're wearing all these hats, you're doing all these things, or
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to take multiple classes or do anything. Anytime you're trying to achieve something and you've got all these things that you need to get done, it
Yeah.
requires building a strategy.
Strategy,
Um,
structure.
yes, and that's something we've talked about before and talk about again. I'm gonna be very. I think I've said this in a previous episode. Strategy and structure to me is something that is very recent in my life, and what I mean by that is I was a kid who was always about structure. Strategy is silly. I'm just gonna get out there and do it because I'm that great. That was always the vision. And there was always just how I felt like my brain worked. I felt like the structure was I felt like it was boxing me in. And I hated that. And what I've learned is it really wasn't structure that I disliked. It was the type of structure that was being created.
Mm.
That was the beef. It wasn't actually structure because now that I'm out in the world doing my own thing and there's nobody above me, like I have to make the things that I want happen. I have learned that structure is foundation
Mm-hmm.
and strategy is literally the most important thing. Well, it's I'd say it's half of the project. The other half is
Yeah.
doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have those things into place, you're able to streamline every process. You're able to make sure you're checking off things are getting done. You're creating something, you're creating a machine,
Mm-hmm.
and machines get shit done.
Mm-hmm.
And when you create a solid machine, you're able to go back in and tweak and change things, but it makes the process easier every single time. And you're not starting from square one every time you go to do something. So for me, I say when you're wearing multiple hats, the best thing is do pre-production. Sit down and figure out, okay, I know I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z on this project. I know it's because I don't have the means to do anything to have these other people come in. So let me sit down and plan out what needs to get done and be open to all that shit going wrong. Be open to that. But starting out with a plan is so much better and less
Yeah.
stressful than starting without one.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you need to employ someone to help you with that structure because
Mhm.
it can be very hard, especially for creatives, any neurodivergence too, to like, it took me a long time to realize that my downfall was lack of structure.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I was seeing other people help me implement it that I was like, oh, this is what I need. Otherwise, I'm just like all over the place. And I think a lot of people think with creativity, it's like, oh, but it's so fluid and free flowing. But it's
That was
too
me.
much of that. It's too
That was me.
much because, because then it's like, you don't know where to start,
Mhm.
don't know where you left off sometimes. You don't know what to prioritize. So like, yeah, structure, I think, is the lifeblood for creativity and progress. And yeah, it's been lessons that we've both learned that we're really happy to be, sharing with you all.
Yeah, and you said something like, don't be afraid to employ someone to help. I think that is also an issue for some of us when we become these multi-hyphenates is we feel that we need to do all the things. You need to wear all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of I've had collaborators that I've worked with where that was them, where it wasn't even about I can't afford this or I can't
Yeah.
or I can't. It wasn't about
It was about control.
it was about control. Yes, and that is the other thing that's detrimental to whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Know when you've can let go of control.
I thought you were going to say no one does it alone.
Well, no one does it alone. That's facts.
Yeah.
Like no one does it alone.
Yeah.
That's any like, and we've said this earlier, and we say it again earlier episode. Sorry, but no one does this alone. Your favorite artist, your favorite CEOs, your favorite anybody. No one does anything alone. As a team, as a village, it takes a village in every project, and it is wonderful when you get to wear so many hats and do so many things, and that's a great experience. But also know when it's okay to give up some of that power, give up some of that control.
Delegate,
yes.
Yeah.
And just because you are skilled at a topic or a thing, you gotta also understand that there probably is somebody that has spent hundreds of hours on that thing and maybe more skilled at it. I love making music. I've really gotten decent at engineering my own music lately, but I know that there are hundreds of thousands of engineers out there that are fucking phenomenal and pull so much great stuff out of my work. So when I have the means, I prefer to go to an engineer than me do it. Not because
it frees up your time.
It frees up my time. I could focus on some of the other things that I want to do, and it creates the best product.
Yes. Yes.
Know when to take that hat off.
Get a team, collaborate.
Absolutely. So one last thing, one final thing I would say is don't burn yourself out.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Don't spin your wheels into the ground and deplete yourself.
Doing too much, quick way to burn yourself out. Even when you're doing a bunch of things you're passionate about, you could be, having the time of your life.
Yep.
But if you're exhausted, you're exhausted.
Yep. You're human. You're human unless otherwise. Tell us if you're an alien watching this. That'd be kind of cool. But
it would be.
I was just thinking about aliens among us.
Intergalactic. The intergalactic show. Yeah. The life we created.
Oh, that'd be really cool. You're human. Give yourself time to rest, relax, rejuvenate. You're not built to go 24. You're not the Energizer Bunny. Even the bunny needs batteries. So recharge and refuel when needed. Be easy on yourself.
Yeah, take it easy on yourself.
Self-care.
You are the most important part of your project. And so if you burn out, that's going to be tough for your project. So yeah. Let us know in the comments what you think about multi-hyphenates. If you like being one, if you hate it, let me know what your experience has been in the professional landscape as a multi-hyphenate.
Yeah.
Hit us up with those comments. We love hearing from you. It makes us feel good. Leave all the comments. We love them. Yes. Thank you for even taking the time to watch this, even if you hate watch it. Thank you for taking that time to do so. It's actually really, really sweet of you.
Yeah, we appreciate the view.
We love you. We want you to succeed.
Yes.
We want you to take things away from this and
we want you to be in your power.
Apply them to your creative project, and we want to see all the beauty that you will create, because creative people create beautiful things. So
yes, give us the nuance.
We want to empower you to put that beautiful shit that you've got into the world.
Yes. See you next time.
Take care.